Joining us in the studio, Steve Millington. He's the chairman of the Twin Falls County Republican Party. Joins us most Tuesday mornings, and in fact, a reference to Colorado. He was actually at the Air Force Academy because one of his outstanding grandsons is attending there.
That's right. He's a cadet at the academy.
And so he's on his way to becoming an Air Force officer.
Yes, he is.
Very important job.
That was a very interesting visit. Of course, they call it Parents' Weekend, and it's kind of invitation, and we were delighted to be able to go. They really roll out the red carpet to make sure everything is just really cool for all of the guests and visitors at the academy. But it's an interesting thing to watch. On Friday morning, they had the parade of cadets. And, of course, they march all 40 companies. I don't know what they call them, just a company of cadets. About 100 cadets in each company, about 4,000 cadets at the academy. They march them out on the field, and, that's, the band's playing. And then they come by in parade, each company one at a time. Well, in the middle of the parade assemblage, they had the Drum and Bugle Corps and the Color Guard. Now, the Drum and Bugle Corps did not march through the parade route. They stayed in location and played their music. The Color Guard, on the other hand, fell in line right between company number 20 and company number 21 because they were located right in the center of the field. And as the Color Guard come by, it was interesting to watch the people. We had already had the presentation of the colors and the national anthem, and singing of the national anthem was really interesting. It was more of a reverent anthem than it was that we normally see. So as the Color Guard come marching by, you would see the people stand as the Color Guard got close and then sit down as it passed them by. Very quiet, nothing to disturb. And you stand up and you take your hat off and you put your hand over your heart and they pass by and you sit back down and the next bunch. And the guy behind me says, "You have just participated in the patriotic wave." And as the whole audience just kind of acted like a wave as the Color Guard marched by them. Very interesting. Another thing that the Air Force has that the other military academies probably don't have quite as much. It really kind of boils your insides up when those the F-35 is the newest generation of fighter planes in the military, and when those F-35s come screaming right over the horizon, you could see them way out, couldn't hear a thing, and as they got closer, you could feel it, and when they got right to us and kicked on the afterburners, the ground just kind of shakes, and you say to yourself, yeah, man, this is cool.
Last summer, I went to see the Thunderbirds.
Oh, yeah.
And a friend of mine had served with them, and so he got us in for the show, and it was on the ocean, and they just came screaming in over some hotels, and it was a wow. What an experience.
It's a wow moment. That's exactly right. So it was very delightful. In the middle of the afternoon, the festivities was going on. They had a changing of the flag on their parade grounds. They took down the huge American flag and put up one a little smaller in size. But over the loudspeaking system, they played something that all of the military people, I don't remember what they call it, retreat or something. And that indicates we're going to retire this flag and we're going to take it down for the day and put up a different one. And everybody just came to a stop. Men, women, children, all of the cadets and officers. And you look around and you say, wow, what are we doing? Well, they're changing the flag. And everything just stopped. Even little kids stopped and watched. Not a movement of any kind. And I thought to myself, that is the way we're supposed to respect our flag. Interesting.
Steve Millington in studio with us until 9 o'clock this morning on Top Story with Bill Colley on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. A couple of minutes before the break, and then we'll have our long segment. There was a poll done, a straw poll by the Republican Party at the Twin Falls County Fair, and I did see that. Tom Carter pointed it out to me. I saw the numbers, but you have some final figures here.
Yes, we do. Here are the final results. Da-da-da-da-da. There's a couple of things really interesting, and they're not too much different from the major polls we see around the country. The top vote getter at the Twin Falls County Fair, Ben Carson, 237 votes. Number two, Donald Trump, 225. Number three, Ted Cruz at 50 votes. Then we had Carly Fiorina, Mark Rubio, Jeb Bush, and Scott Walker. This morning in the poll, and I think it was Real Clear Politics, Trump was 27 percentage points, Carson was 23, Cruz, Rubio, and Bush were at 6% apiece. And so our poll was not significantly different from what we see nationally. The interesting thing is, you come down the page, some of the people we would think would be really strong candidates really fell off hard. The two big names, obviously Carson and Trump. You get down to Rand Paul, he only had 14 votes out of the 650 votes that was cast. So just barely 2%. And I found that was interesting. Kasich was down in that same category. And below them, we had 7 candidates that just had, Bobby Jindal had 4. The rest of them had 1 or 2 or 3. And as you look at it, you say to yourself, how much longer? And since the poll was completed, by the way, Rick Perry has withdrawn from the race.
Sure.
So, and how much longer do you suppose we can go before some of the rest of these people begin to feel the monetary difficulties, and they too have to say, I'm done?
Yeah, we'll be down to 7 or 8 in a couple of months.
I think we will be.
More with Steve Millington coming up. He's the chairman of the Twin Falls County Republican Party. It's 8:40:53. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and online everywhere around the world at newsradio1310.com. Hey, I want to remind people on Thursday morning, Kelton Hatch is scheduled to join us in studio from Idaho Fish and Game. And he's going to be talking about hunting seasons and the like. And we've been telling you for the last few weeks on the program, if you've got some game and you need that processed, the place to go is High Desert Meat Processing, where they process one animal at a time. What you bring in is what you're going to get back. Darren Van Horn, the owner of High Desert Meat Processing in Twin Falls, has more than 30 years of experience in the business. Visit High Desert Meat Processing on Facebook, where you could read reviews of customers. Give High Desert Meat Processing a call for all of your wild game and domestic processing needs. 734-9949. High Desert Meat does in-house smoking. Nothing gets shipped out. Specialty meats such as jerky, pepperoni, salami, summer sausage, kielbasa, breakfast sausage, brats, Polish dogs, hot dogs, much more. USDA approved. Darren works closely with local beef growers, too, and their programs to ensure quality meat. 734-9949. We've got a caller, Steve, right out of the break here. It's 8:44. Steve Millington, the chairman of the Twin Falls County Republican Party, in studio with me. Bill Colley on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. And you're on the air.
Hi. Magic Valley Republican Women reporting in. And I just wanted to make sure that we did a little local political business here. The Magic Valley Republican Women are having a fashion show luncheon with 100 years of fashions.
Now, Steve's going to be on the runway, right?
Yeah, right.
I love it. But we're going to show the 20th century with music, and should be a lot of fun. The tickets are $35 at Blue Lakes. Going to be at Blue Lakes Country Club, and they can reach me, or I guess they could probably buy tickets from Steve. But let's see. I think probably my phone number would be the best thing. 421-2101. And also this Wednesday at 12 o'clock noon, that's tomorrow, our state president of the Republican Women, the Idaho Federation of Republican Women president, Kitty Kuntz, will be at our regular meeting at Clear Lake Country Club. Got to get my country club straight. At Clear Lake Country Club at 12 noon. And I know there's a lot of people that would like to know more about Republican Women, and the luncheon's $12 there, or they can come and just listen.
Outstanding.
Anyway, did I get it all out?
You got to ask the boss here.
Sounds like plenty. Thank you.
I want to thank her for the call. You might actually be at some of these events.
I will definitely be at the luncheon meeting tomorrow. The
Right.
plan is right now I'll be there on the big fashion show and so forth. We have another road trip planned.
Yes.
So there's a bunch of them stacked up out here for the next little while. So we will miss the fashion show, but we will try to make the luncheon tomorrow.
Now, this shows organization within the Republican Party, which I think reflects on something that we were talking about in an email earlier this morning. And the fact of the matter is we're a little more than a year away from elections for our two congressional seats.
Right.
Plus, Senator Mike Crapo is up for re-election. There are no Democrats. Now, they may not normally announce this early, but Randy Staples was telling me yesterday from Idaho Weekly Briefing, he was saying he has not even heard a rumor about any Democrats who might be interested in challenging one of those three.
And that kind of corresponds with conversations I have had with our state party leadership, and they indicate the same thing. At this point, they don't even have a whisper out there. That doesn't mean that someone won't throw their hat in the ring in the next 3 or 4 months. And I would think by the first of the year, definitely they're going to want to be in the mix, because we go through the primary election process leading up to the May primary elections. They're going to want to have their name present and talked about all through the primary election process cycle, so that they don't. They're going to need the airtime and the voter recognition, name recognition. So somebody's going to have to come forth between now and the end of the year in order to get some traction through the primary election cycle, and to set themselves up for a general election run in November. So it's interesting that we haven't heard of any, at least on the congressional level, Crapo, Simpson, and Labrador.
We have a caller, a couple of them, I think, trying
Oh,
to reach
good.
us.
Let's go.
You're up next. You're on the air with Steve Millington and Bill Colley on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX.
Good morning to both of you. Steve, do you think that because of the changing demographics of this state, what I mean by that is a lot of people fleeing the People's Republic of California and the People's Republic of Oregon, perhaps, and moving to Idaho because of it's a more conservative state, is exactly why it's the only species that really needs to be declared endangered is probably the Democratic Party in the state of Idaho.
Well, I don't think I would call it an endangerment. We do know that the Democrats are setting up to run some strong candidates in the legislative races throughout the state of Idaho, and one of the locations that they are targeting very strongly is the Twin Falls area. So we know that they are making plans and preparations to run candidates in what we call the local races. They would be state legislative type races. So we know there's going to be some effort here. You make an interesting point, and that's a double-edged sword. We do see a lot of people coming from outside areas to Idaho because we are more conservative than many other places around the country. And so we see an increase in conservative voices coming to the state of Idaho. History says that sometimes when people come here, they come for a variety of reasons, and let's say it's a political, they want an area that's more firmly conservative, liberty, values. But when they get here, the first thing they want to do is turn it into where they left. And so the real problem is we need to make sure that we maintain our Idaho values and don't let them get run over by people coming from other areas that say, well, yeah, but when I was in California, they paid for this and this and this and this and this. Well, in Idaho, that's not what we do. Now, we mentioned our little road trip to Colorado. We come back through areas in Wyoming. We stopped in a convenience store to get some gas and refreshment. And they had a sign, a big sign on the window right behind the cashier. And it said, "Welcome to Wyoming." we like it just the way it is right here, and we don't care where you came from. And I looked at that and I thought to myself, that's exactly right. We like it just the way it is, and we're not interested in where you came from. So that's a double-edged sword. But if we encourage these people and show them that our ideological-based conservatism is very useful and functional and serves them well, we will hold them. We had a visitor to our Republican meeting last Wednesday night. They're new to the area and just wanted to get involved in the Republican Party, and they said, "Yeah, we want to be involved. We like these things. We just don't like what we see in other areas." So we do have a very good opportunity. I think it's an opportunity to encourage these people to leave that old stuff behind. When you cross the border, just throw that stuff out the window, and we're okay here. We really are. We're okay.
And it's worked well for 100 and some years. So
yes, it's worked very well.
We want to point out Steve Millington is our guest in studio. It's 8:52. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com, which means you can listen to us live on the web anywhere all over the world. 53, going to be a rainy day, at least maybe even for a couple of days now in a row. The first real serious rain we've probably seen since sometime in June or July.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
We have another caller with us. You're on the air with Steve Millington.
Yes, the gentleman just before talking about Oregon, Washington, California, and every time I hear about the terrible, devastating, tragic fires that have blazed through Idaho and Oregon and Washington and California as of yesterday, I called my friend up at the Idaho Cattlemen's Association because they have a program called Graze, Don't Blaze. And see, when an environmentalist blocks the ability of grazing, and that's all they do, and then we end up, think about it this way, if you really do care about the environment and the inhabitants of that environment, is a fire that is like nothing we've seen in history, in recent history. The way to save it, these sorry SOBs couldn't care less about what happens to the animals that inhabit this environment and the loss of timber and the environment. And every time that somebody tries to do something from Oregon, Washington, and California, and even Idaho, these environmental SOBs, and they are careless suckers, let me tell you. They are suing whoever, and they get this thing tied up in court, and in some cases these judges go along, judicial activism and environmentalists. And you say, well, this is the kind of thing, and in the meantime, we are losing what defines the West, forest and grazing and common sense.
Common sense is a very good point. And your statement really rang hard with me as I watched the pictures of California. I think that's where they had these fire bursts the last 2 or 3 days, and just hundreds. I think the count this morning was in the 800 plus homes destroyed by fire. And as I was watching the blaze and the people unable to do things, I commented right out loud, we could solve 90% of that problem if we went in and had a logical, common sense harvest program for all that timber and thin it down. But no, we got to let it all just rot, and it catches fire, and zoom. They can't understand how come the fire is burning so hot and so fast. That's because it has so much fuel to burn. It's like this Soda Creek fire that we had out in Owyhee County. Well, how did it burn so hot and so fast? Well, go out. You should have gone out there and taken a look around in early June. The grass was up there 12 to 18 inches high, no cattle on it to graze it. There it sits. It dries out. And, I've never been in a range fire, a forest fire, but I do burn a few ditches. and you get in the springtime of the year when things are really dry, and you hit that with your weed burner, and before you can take a deep breath, that thing has burned up the ditch 50 or 75 feet, and you're standing right there watching it. And so it's no wonder that these things get out of control. The problem is we've got to control the fuels that those fires have to burn. And he's right. The people back east don't understand that because they have so much natural rain and so forth that wildfires is not a common occurrence for them. So when we try to explain to them what's going on, they look at us like we're from outer space.
They want to tell us we shouldn't live here.
You're right.
We've got about a minute and a half. The debate coming up, CNN debate.
Tomorrow night.
Will someone knock Donald Trump off at this point? Do you think it's finally going to happen?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that they can knock him down. I think what they need to do is start preparing their own points of position, and emphasize them, and never mind trying to take Trump down. In the last week or so, I think I have finally seen maybe the chink in his armor. He likes to throw rocks at all of the other candidates. He took on Colley. That's the dumbest thing I think I've ever heard him do. He is throwing rocks at Ted Cruz. Knock it off. Just tell us what's wrong with the Democrat and how you're going to fix it, and continue to pound on that point. And Trump has two really strong things. Immigration is a major thorn in everybody's side, and we need to figure out how to engage the middle class and lower class workers back into our economic program so that they can see some hope, some traction, some ability to advance. And as long as we push those two issues, Trump's going to be a little bit tough to tangle with.
Yeah, and somebody said the other day that he's calmed down a little bit of the
rhetoric. Yeah, he's had to slow that down, and that's good. You've made your point. Now pound the points that you want to emphasize. Attack the Democrats. We'll sort it out.
Want to thank Steve Millington for coming by today. It's coming up on 8:59, and that means news is just ahead from the Fox Radio Network. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. 53. Going to be somewhat of a wet day. Probably nobody complaining about that.